Well, good day. Welcome back. Today is Monday, March the 2nd. There's a very important birthday coming up tomorrow. To remind myself. Hold on, taking a note. Today's poem, today's little bit of other person's art is by Margaret Fishback. Margaret is kind of incredible. Check her out if you can. Virtue is its own reward. I wish my frank and open face held just one tiny little trace of something that approaches guile. I'd like an enigmatic smile, and heavy-lidded eyes instead of just my regulation head. The things we wish we were. I know a person who is incredibly interesting, who has a very unique perspective of the world, is very no-nonsense view, and a good way of articulating it. And she once mentioned to me that she would give anything to not be quite so clever, that it had ruined relationships, that it had ceased to be interesting to some of the people she cared about the most, and she wished that she could just be a more average person. And there are days that I get that. But in the immortal words of the poet Elton John, well, I guess Bernie Taupin, because he wrote the words, don't wish it away. You've been given a gift, don't wish it away. And don't look at it like it's forever, because we evolve. According to my notes today, we're gonna the talk today is your craft versus your metrics, and what in the long run what really counts and what really lasts. I have really got to learn where the lens of my camera is. It's right there. I am used to performing on stage. I'm used to speaking to dozens of people, and so I find myself trying to make eye contact with these people and these people and these people and these people down here, none of which exist. It's just it's a habit that I've gotten into in speaking, to where even if the people aren't there, I am looking in this direction. Secret. Something that people who don't spend a lot of time on stage, especially those of, or if you spend time on stage and you're not directly addressing people in the audience, actors and performers and singers that simply, throw it out huge to everyone else or address each other on stage. If you're addressing individuals, even if there's 1,000 people out there and you're addressing individuals, you can't see them. The lights are such that all you see are shadows most of the time, and you just have to relate as humanly as you possibly can. So please forgive me if my eyes wander. It's a habit I've picked up. Let me start with a quiet confession. If you spend any time online as a creative person, you will eventually start thinking in numbers and algorithms. The views, the likes, the comments, the followers, how many do I have, how many have I lost? And that, at the beginning, that just seems normal. It's kind of harmless. But you tell yourself you're being responsible. You are paying attention. You're learning what works and what doesn't. And there's a small grain of truth in that. But in that journey, something shifts after a while. Your attention will move away from the work itself and more towards what the reaction to the work is going to be. Rather than just going to the well, rather than going and pulling what you have up and shining a light on it, taking your heart and getting under the lights, you start to concern yourself with how are they going to like the water that I'm bringing forward? How are they going to like what I'm going to present to them? Should I alter it? Should I sweeten the water somehow? Should I add ice and make it colder? Should I make sure it's room temperature for the people that enjoy that? And it becomes crippling, because metrics, algorithms change constantly. I see endless videos of The new algorithm on YouTube has changed. The new algorithm on TikTok is different, and now they want this kind of a performance rather than this kind of performance. Metrics change. Craft doesn't. Digging into your art doesn't. Long time ago, before people worried about algorithms and engagements, I was working on a piece for my own live show. It's a story I wanted to tell. It wasn't flashy, wasn't loud, just a quiet moment with my audience. A story that involved me and my dad. And trying to show that relationship without overtly stating it. Just telling the story so that you would understand the idea and feel the dynamic of the friction between me and my father. And I spent weeks on it. Not, actually writing new stuff every day, just slowly going back to my analogy of the stone, polishing it. Polishing it was over there. I cut sentences, I moved pauses, I stood, I sat, I changed one word for another word. I described him in different ways, and in the way that I saw him and the way I thought he saw me. And if you watched me work on it, if you just sat and watched, from a corner watching me go back and forth on it, you might have thought it was obsessive. Because the audience I'm going to present these things to is only going to hear that story for about 3 minutes, 3 to 5. If you're doing a full routine, if you were telling a longer saga and a story in a stand-up comedy act, a stand-up magic act, a juggling act, however a speech that you're giving to a group, you're only going to hear it once. You're going to hear it that little amount of time. But I kept polishing anyway. And eventually, that story became something very simple and very clean. And when I performed it, something interesting really happened. The room went quiet. Not polite quiet, not confused quiet, listening quiet. The kind of silence where everyone just leans in a little bit. And afterwards, people didn't talk about the trick that went along with it, or the lighting, or the staging, or how I was dressed, or whether my shoes were polished or not. They talked about the story, not the trick, the story. I lobbied the entertainment director of the Magic Castle for a very long time to not only do shows in the close-up magic room, which I was originally hired to do, but to expand that and go into the parlor, which is an audience of about, well, not even double, like triple the normal size of a close-up room. And for a long time, he pushed back on it and said, "No, you're very good in close-up. Let's keep you there." And I had to compromise with him and offer him, like, let me work the parlor, and if you are disappointed, move me back. Just give me the opportunity. And I finally convinced him to give me the opportunity. And he was there first night, first show, watching and taking notes. And after it was over, and everybody had left the room, he came down and he said, in an 18-minute show, an 18-minute program, for the first 6 minutes, you didn't do anything. You didn't do any magic. You spoke and you told a story. This is not the storytelling castle. This is the magic castle. That's a quote. And he said, but I cannot, this is important, he said, I cannot tell you to do it any differently because I wanted to hear that story. I wanted to hear how it came to a conclusion. I was wrapped up in it, and that's where the magic was. So, as the entertainment director, I have to tell you that you should be doing magic at the beginning, but as an audience member, as a lover of the craft, as a fan of yours, please don't change anything. That is a great badge of pride for me. It has to do with the craft, it has to do with the art, it has to do with what is coming from in here and being put out there. Put your time in your practice, put your time in the technique, sure, but make sure you put an equal amount of time in the heart that is going out across the lip of the stage. Here's a tension that most creatives are living inside today. Metrics, algorithms reward speed. Craft rewards patience. Metrics reward volume. Craft rewards refinement. Algorithm will give you novelty. Craft, art rewards depth and heart. When you start chasing numbers, something subtle begins to happen. You start asking the wrong questions. What kind of contest could I excel in? Could I fool these famous magicians and receive a trophy for it? Instead of asking, is it true? Is it clear? Is this the best version of my idea? You begin asking, will this play? Will it play? There's nothing wrong with wanting your work to reach people. That's part of your job. Truly is. But when performance becomes the primary measurement, the work itself starts to thin out. Algorithms reward what is fast and frequent and catchy and hip and new and scandalous sometimes. Audiences remember what is careful and what is human. And the artists who last the longest almost always make the same quiet decision. They build their work around their heart, not around the reaction they're going to get. Think of your favorite musical artists. Think of your favorite authors. Think of your favorite poets. Write the essay that needs to exist, the thing that you need to say. Shape your story around the perspective that you alone have on the world that you live in. And rehearse the piece until the rhythm starts to become inevitable. And then you share it. And sometimes the numbers explode and sometimes they don't. And sometimes everybody watches and sometimes just a handful or nobody does. And here's the idea. Here's what I've been thinking of lately. It's the commitment. Commitment is not a mood. It's a decision about who and what you serve. If you serve metrics, your work will constantly shift to please. If you serve craft, your work will slowly become unmistakably yours. Don't you want to just give them what is yours? It's a long game. As audiences may discover you through a metric, and they may stay because of the craft. They stay because something about your work feels thoughtful and grounded and intentional, and they feel like you took the time. And time leaves fingerprints. Time leaves evidence. You can see it in great writing. You can hear it in great music. In Dylan, in Springsteen, in Joni Mitchell, in Prince, in David Bowie, in Deborah Harry, and Patti Smith, and Kate Bush, and Marillion, the band that I love. You could feel it in a well-told story across a table with 12 people leaning in to hear the history of the place they sit and the heart they sit across from. Because I weave my history and my stories and my perspective into the art that I present across the seance table as equally as I ever did across the magician's table. When you sit down to make something, are you building it for reaction? Or are you building it for the work? Reactions fade very quickly. The next big thing comes along, the next distraction in politics or in world news or the next hot TV show is going to jump in to try to fill the void in people, to try to keep their attention. Attention is fleeting. How you make people feel, how you share your heart, the intention that you put on the stage is what is going to last and what is going to keep you in their minds and keep the story that you told in their minds and in their hearts for far longer. And it's a much better companion for the long road. Well-made work tends to keep walking around the world long after we have finished shaping it. Not exactly sure where that little tidbit came from, but I jotted it down so it meant something to me at the time. And I will examine it, and I will pick up my polishing cloth, and I will take a good look at what I am putting across the lip of the stage and across the table. Give your work the patience it deserves. All that to say that. I hope there's love where you are. Thanks for spending some time.